Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to my May, forgot what month it was. Welcome to my June wrap-up and my May TBR. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may know that I'm kind of hit or miss on the wrap-up TBR, and I've disparaged the importance of doing them until I realized that I have a hard time sometimes remembering what books I read when, unless I do a wrap-up and or a TBR. I know what you're thinking. Weren't you doing a whole journaling thing where you wrote down the names of the books that you read? And yeah, that didn't work out because journaling just felt like work, and I retired. So here I am with my June wrap-up and my July TBR. Sure, my hair is sticking up perfectly on top. You know, one of the great things about getting older is that not only is my hair thinning right here, but it sticks up right here to draw attention to the fact that it's thinning. Anyway, here we go. So June was the beginning of the semifinal round of the BookTube Prize, and I'm reading in the nonfiction category. And so I have 5 books to read for the nonfiction category semifinals in the BookTube Prize. One of them, Solitary by Albert Woodfox, I've already read, so I didn't have to read that one again. So you know, I'll just mention these, even though I can't say anything about them because the judging is going on in the month. I did finish Sea People by Christina Thompson, more or less a history of Polynesian exploration of the Pacific and our ideas about how they did that. I finished at the end of this month The Yellow House by Sarah M. Broom, the story of her family's home in New Orleans, which was destroyed by Hurricane Katrina, and it's really a meditation, I think, on family and on place and on roots and on feeling like you're connected to some place and on how cities treat the impoverished, the struggles of African American communities with poverty and neglect by their city governments. So I finished that. June was Pride Month, so I set out to read 5 books for Pride Month, but I only got through 4. The first one I read was Fun Home by Allison Bechdel. This is kind of a memoir of her life as a young person with her family, with a not incredibly pleasant experience with her father, who eventually dies, and her reflections on that, and her reflections on growing up and coming to the realization that she was a lesbian and the problems that caused within her family and, more importantly, within her own life, and then about the emerging knowledge of her father's homosexuality as well. This was really good. I really enjoyed it, and as other people have said, it was much more, there's a lot more intellectual work to do in reading this than I had anticipated. I also read, for Pride Month, I read Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. Sarah Gailey is the author of one of my favorite kind of fun pieces of fiction, The Hippo Duology, and I picked this book up last year that they wrote to kind of just carry on and see what I thought. To be honest with you, I think I mentioned this. This is the most disappointing book I think I've read this year. Not because it was bad, but just because it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. It's essentially a detective story set at a school for magic in California. And you know, the detective story is pretty good, and there are you know, straight characters, bi characters, lesbian characters, gay characters, etc. in this book, and you know, all the relationships are dealt with openly and frankly. So I read this and I thought it was okay. I then picked up Tales of the City by Armisted, Maupin, one of the kind of the classic works of LGBTQ plus literature or fiction in the United States, which has been made into various television series. This was just incredibly fun. It's a really quick read. The characters are really engaging. The storylines and the way they all kind of interweave and intermesh are fun. The characters are quirky. They are outlandish. They are everything you'd want from a book set in the 70s. I think you can find here, including, you know, the strange fashion trends, what was popular, the way people decorated their homes. So it wasn't just the story, but for me it was kind of a bit of nostalgia thinking about the 1970s. It gets a little dark at the end, but I liked it. And then I read Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin as a part of my, you know, relatively newfound love for James Baldwin. I read this book incredibly powerful story about a young man's resistance to the knowledge that he is in fact gay, and the tragic consequences that has for the people around him, written with, Baldwin's, I think, incredible frankness and the amazing style of his writing. And I will say this, a while back I did the sex and literature tag, and I think I mentioned James Baldwin writing sex scenes. And so I know a lot of people think that sex scenes are best left out of books, but I will tell you, Baldwin has a way of making those incredibly important to character development and plot development, and they're not gratuitous, and so I really like that. Also, you may or may not know that I am a part of the Toni Morrison 2020 read-along, in which we're trying to read all of Toni Morrison's novels, her 11 novels in the year 2020. June, we were on her 5th novel, which is her best-known and most highly acclaimed novel, and that's Beloved. And I think this is my 3rd time maybe rereading Beloved, and it just, every time I read it, it just gets so much better. The plot, the story, the characters, the setting, the way in which the story is woven together are just incredibly masterful. And I will tell you, as a historian, one of the things that I really appreciated about Beloved most this time is how it ends up, I think, essentially telling you the whole, or almost the whole, experience of slavery for African Americans in the United States before the Civil War came to an end. The pleasant, the awful, the nightmarish, the horrible, the sadism, the disappointment, the soul-crushing nature of it, the ends to which it drove people, just incredibly told in this story, and in a way that makes it a part of the plot, in which the history actually is a part of the way in which the plot develops. Just a really great book, maybe the greatest book ever written by an American. And then I also had 2 buddy reads this month. The first was The House on Endless Waters by Emuna Elon. I buddy read this with Britta Bowler at the beginning of the month, and this was just so good. I still haven't decided, I think, how good I think it is, but I would definitely say that right now it is easily going to be one of my top 10 books of the year, depending on if I count rereads or not. It was just really good, just really well crafted, and I may do a whole review on this when I can finally get my head around everything that I thought about this book. But the plotting is intricate and interesting. The language and the writing is beautiful. The emotions of the historical moment in which it's set, which is Amsterdam, essentially during World War II, as Amsterdam's Jewish population has their rights restricted and they're slowly shipped out to death camps. It's just incredibly well done. It's an incredibly rich novel. So I may not have to review it because I just did it there. And reading it with Britta Bowler was great because she lives part-time, at least, in Amsterdam, and so she was able to give me insight. And always reading something with Britta, you learn so much, and that was really great. And then just yesterday, and matter of fact, I haven't even posted, sent Lukash my Voxer message. Yesterday I finished book 2 in the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemison, and that's Obelisk Gate. I buddy read this with Lukash, and I'll tell you right now, I thought it was really good. I'm not calling anybody out because I can't remember who it was, but several people told me that they found this book disappointing, and I really didn't at all. And I was talking to Lukash about this. This may be because I'm kind of a second book in a trilogy weirdo. I kind of like that. Almost like this second book is kind of a pause, where everything regathers and you kind of set everything up for what is going to be the ultimate book and the ultimate resolution of the plot and all those kind of things. But I really liked it. I thought the storytelling was good. I think it's a good follow-up to the 5th season. Not nearly as much action, but I just really thought it did a great job of explaining and kind of setting up for the next book, and I really liked it. So that's my reading for June. And by the way, that's kind of a record for me. I think I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I read 9 books. I can't remember the last time I read 9 books in a month. It must be a byproduct of retiring. So then my July TBR is a little bit more up in the air, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I do have to complete my BookTube prize reading. I just started Underland by Robert MacFarlane. Today. I also have to read Say Nothing, A True Story of Murder and Memory in Northern Ireland by Patrick Radden Keefe. And then Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow. Because I'm clever, I left the 3 longest ones to read for the end, so I'm trying to buckle down and get to reading that. I have another buddy read this month, which I'm really looking forward to, with Mark Nash. We're reading Going After Cachiato by Tim O'Brien. Mark Nash is a real Tim O'Brien fan. I've read The Things They Carried and In the Lake of the Woods, and I thought both those books were really good. If anything, I think In the Lake of the Woods is an incredibly underrated American novel, which, like with Mark, it surprised him. So we're buddy reading this, and we're starting this on July the 5th. Then Jason over at Byways in Bookland has said, has said he's going to be hosting a read-along of Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, and so I have my copy, which I've never made it past page 50 of, but Jason assures me that he can walk us through this, so I'm hoping that happens, and I finally can add Foucault's Pendulum to the list of books that I have actually read. Also, July is Jane Austen July, and while I'm not going to be reading any physical copies of Jane Austen's books, I have already started an audiobook of Sense and Sensibility, and I'm about, I think, 8 chapters in, and I'm just going to listen to that as a way to kind of get me to work out and to ride my exercise bike and maybe go for a walk. That's been nice. And then I'm going to try to watch as many different Jane Austen adaptations and Jane Austen related movies and TV series as I can. That's kind of how I'm going to celebrate Jane Austen July. Sense and Sensibility will be my 4th Jane Austen novel, leaving me with Emma and Mansfield Park, I think. Is that right? Emma and Mansfield Park would be then the 6 main novels. I've never read the Juvenilia or the other novels that were somewhat incompleted and not published during a lifetime. But, you know, I want to get in on that celebration of Jane Austen July, so I'm also doing that. And then at that point, my July reading schedule kind of opens up. Now, if you notice, that's already 5 books. That's my normal number of books in a month. But, you know, coming off the high of reading 9 books in that last month, I thought, you know, you might as well challenge yourself to do more. I still haven't even started Lakota America by Pekka Hamalainen, which I really have wanted to get to. A very heavy book with very small print. This may take me more than 1 month anyway. So there's that. Because of events last month, I ordered a number of books related to racism and institutionalized racism in the United States. So I'm probably going to try to read How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, and then I have Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which I want to get to. I have White Rage on its way as well, so I may read those this month. And then also I wanted to finally get around to reading Sarah Waters, who's recommended to me highly by Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse, and I have this relatively beat-up used copy of The Night Watch, which I also want to get to, but it's pretty long. Anyway, so the rest of that TBR is a little bit up in the air. So I have some choices there: White Rage, Between the World and Me, How to Be an Anti-Racist, The Night Watch, and then Lakota America. Oh, by the way, I also have the memoir by Wayetu Moore, whose name I just forgot. I feel bad. I'll try to put a picture above it over here, which is coming in. I'm really looking forward to reading that, even though I've never read her fiction. So a lot of options for me in terms of my July TBR. Let me know which books you think I should read that were in my option list down below in the comments section, and please feel free to share your thoughts about any of the books I mentioned or anything else. And thanks for watching.